The local martial arts instructor was paralyzed teaching an MMA class. It was an accident, basically. But I'm wondering something about what happened.
Where the kicks at? Where the hands? Where the holes? Where the throws? You know what I'm saying? Cecil.
I believe this was in 2016. An MMA instructor named Mike Sheffield, a young man in his, I believe he was in his 20s, was teaching MMA out in Virginia. Basically, he said that he was on the mat, and it sounds like he was on his back, and he said that his body kept going up over his head, and his head stayed on the mat, and the next thing he knew, he was in the hospital. I'm going to play a little bit of the news clip that tells about his very inspiring story. He's not a Taekwondoan, but he's definitely displaying some indomitable spirit with how he's going about recovering from his injury.
He first introduced you to Mike Sheffield in December of 2016. He was diagnosed as a C4-C5 quadriplegic.
I have limited use of all four limbs.
An accident while practicing MMA put him in ICU for weeks. Then his family moved to Atlanta so he could receive top-notch treatment for a few months.
Changed everything for all of us.
Mike's dad, David, says doctors sat the family down to explain the unknown.
There's no way of knowing if Mike's going to recover a lot or none or completely.
But the last year has been filled with hard workouts, focus, and determination. The result, major improvements.
I can do things with this arm. When you talked to me a year ago, this arm was frozen.
He has spent hours at the ODU Monarch Physical Therapy Clinic, a place where he found inspiration and met new friends.
I think we're a better family and we're better people after going through this for a year.
My story has brought people to the clinic, and that's amazing to see every time when they find out who I was and say, you gave us a little bit of hope and reason to come back and fight and keep trying to recover.
See, I wonder if he was on his back doing the guard, and that's why and how he got injured. I wonder if somebody pushed his feet up too far over his head too fast, and his head stayed in place, and his body just got pushed back over so much that it ended up stressing C4 and C5. I'm going to put a graphic in here of the vertebrae that are called C4 and C5. Where they are in the neck is right where, like right in the back of here, when you're doing your head forward like that. Now, this is for you naysayers who just can't believe that coming down on your neck like that can break your vertebrae at C4 and C5. And what I'm going to show here is a very famous clip. Now, this kid I call it being flipped over, but I think some people call it being stacked. I think they call it stacked and flipped. He got stacked and flipped, and he ended up breaking his neck because he came down wrong. Let's take a look at that. So, I mean, honestly, I think that in BJJ, not my art, I think they should ban the guard. Judo doesn't have the guard like that. And you're definitely not allowed to do that move in Judo. In Judo, what we did was they had a thing where you could pick the person up, and that would be it. You could pick them up and slam them down for your opponent. They banned that in Judo, okay? Now, I know some of you people are going to be mad because you're going to look at the style that the channel is named after and go and start picking on Taekwondo. You're going to say you should ban this in BJJ. You don't even have a black belt in that. Don't talk about that. Look at what you do in Taekwondo with those head kicks. And you know what I say? You're absolutely right. I think that we should ban head kicks in Taekwondo. I really do. I don't see the point of kicking anybody in the head. Kicking people in the head should be something that's considered like a forbidden technique or a deadly technique or like a death blow. Because you can kick somebody in the head, they can have concussion, they can have seizures, they can even lose eyesight. So If you want to ding me because the main thing I teach is Taekwondo, and I say that I'm looking at BJJ going, hey, BJJ, stop that. And you want to counter with, you guys stop kicking people in the head, you got my support on that. There is no reason to be kicking people in the head in contests, except for the fact that people like to see people get kicked in the head. And as far as judo goes, people like to see people getting slammed. And then as far as BJJ goes, people like to see people fighting in the guard, because these dangerous moves that you see in competitions become the signature thing for people outside the martial arts, and even some of us in the martial arts, to know the style for. So I just want to put it out there. One thing. One, I think BJJ should seriously consider banning the guard. Okay. Two, if you're going to keep the guard, this is what I tell people when I'm doing newaza, when we're switching over and doing some judo stuff. I make people all the time stay on the ground. Meaning, if they're on top of someone, I tell them, if I say we're in groundwork and we're doing ground grappling and ground wrestling, I tell them, do not come up on both feet. Once you come up on both feet, you are not in mat work anymore. That's what I tell them. And then if they come at me, well, in BJJ, BJJ, and I say, you know what? You can go back to BJJ then. You're not going to do it here. I can do that in the class that I'm running. Now, if I go to somebody else's school and take BJJ, whatever, I got to keep my mouth shut, and I got to respect the rules of their house because I'm in their house. But that's how I get around it. So if anybody wants to adopt that idea, go ahead, fine. And a lot of times, if you want to know where your self-defense application should be for your combat sport, you should research what moves are banned and why. That is going to give you a lot of lethal techniques. And that's how you can pick up on things that you should use in combat. I repeat, combat or self-defense. Not, he stepped on my shoe, he looked at me funny, he called me a racial slur. That's not combat or self-defense, that's ego fights. Now, if they call you a racial slur and 2 or 3 of them are running at you, or one of them is running at you and they got a knife and you think they're going to kill you, that's combat. But not, oh, he's standing way over there and he calls you a racial slur, but he's not coming up to you. I say still leave the vicinity. But you know what I'm saying. And don't get what I said twisted. Most of the people I get called a racial slur by use it as a term of endearment, and they're in my same race. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm not alling anybody, so don't even go there. But if you stayed this long, thank you for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this to people who like to talk about martial arts. And if you're in a rule-making capacity for BJJ or judo or any combat sport, even Taekwondo, can we get the head kicks out of Taekwondo? And can we tell people that you have to stay on the ground if you're in mat work? Don't jump up and pull people up and slam them back down. And you know what would be a good solution for the head kicks in Taekwondo? Tell them you can come near the head, you can come in front of the head, and you not to make head contact. Give them more points for coming close to the head but not hitting. If they get more points for coming close to the head and not hitting, saying if you come close and do something like that could have knocked them out, but you didn't, you win the match. People would train that way. And they can still watch the motion, and we can still go, wow, if that had connected, that could have paralyzed them or killed them or made them go blind. And not, it connected and it killed them, paralyzed them, made them go blind, and got seizures for the rest of their life.